Now, I want to say, I'm going to say some things here and it'll probably shock some of you. After my trip to Malta, I realised maybe I didn't have as many friends among the talent pool as I thought I did. Even people I've reached out to and significantly helped with their careers and always been friends with. People were so worried about their own personal bag and being worried, oh, are you the leak? Did you leak him? The Counter-Strike 2 story, that old friends actually ignored me and wouldn't be seen with me in public in case like that got fed back to Valve or something, because basically all that matters, this is just a conduit to make money. No one actually is in a community. There is no community. Nobody cares. So I'm just like, I'm lighting everyone up. I don't give a fuck. At the end of the day, I know my friends are. I know it was there for me when Maria passed away. I know it was there for me and looked out for me and did things for me. And many names surprised me because I didn't know that. But many people were fucking conspicuous by their absence. But I held on to that, and I thought, you know what? Not everyone knows what to do or what to say when you're having a bad time. To fucking be like that, to be that pathetic over the bag, over the fucking bag. Like, nah. That's not me. Like, no way. That's a disgrace. So, if you're on this list and you're doing shitty things, I don't give a fuck about all of that stuff in the past. The truth remains the truth, and I'm not gonna fucking sugarcoat it just because, you know, I was super cool to you that one time, wasn't I? Did I get anything back? Did you reciprocate? Oh, no, you were a two-faced cunt. Okay. Two-faced cunt the whole time. So, here we go. We have the talent announcement for the challenges and legend stage and so 2 stages, 2 separate bits of talent. So done it in the past. I've always rated talent announcements because, as I said right at the start of the stream, I believe I've got the expertise to do it. So desk hosts, Freya, no objection. Freya's an absolute legend. Gets better at her craft with every single broadcast. Really conscientious, wonderful person, wonderful human being. As you might have seen from her Twitter feed, if you follow her, went through a real personal tragedy. She was dealing with the entirety of, I believe, the ESL broadcast, and just handled it like an absolute baller. She's great and deserves your adoration and support. And long may she continue in this business. Sam Tech Girl Right. I know this surprised a lot of you when you saw this name. She has been a desk host and an interviewer for a long, long time. Spoiler, I've always been a bit of a stan, or that's creepy, a bit of a homer, you know, for her. Like, I've always advocated for her as talent. So's Thorin. She does a podcast. Been on that podcast, full disclosure. I think she's great. And I know not a lot of people have seen her work and they don't understand. But the problem you've got is, desk hosts are in short supply. It's a job no one wants to do, and so there is an impetus on developing new talent. Now, because I do keep it real, and by the way, I've already congratulated her on the role and said I fully support you. Anything I can do to help, you know, enjoy it. It's a major. That being said, you know, Stunner's out there. I know Blast, for whatever reason, has decided that Stunner, you know, might not make the cut and they don't like to use him or whatever. But Stunner's out there, and I think Stunner's been a great servant to CSGO down the years. And spoiler, obviously, I'm a personal friend of Stunner. And this gets to the immediate elephant in the room. Blast's hiring process this entire time was a disgrace behind the scenes. And I want to remind everybody of the standard that we have set in this scene since the very first major. We always said, if the major is the peak of CSGO, then politics must be checked at the door. Not your geo-global politics and your American Twitter politics you like so much. The internal industry politics, that we pick the best people, the people at the top of their craft, no matter what companies they work for or what endorsements they've done and who they've worked with in the past and blah, blah, blah. It's the major. It doesn't matter that Blast and ESL have fucking had beef. It doesn't matter that Face It and ESL have had beef. You hire the best people. Now, it's interesting, isn't it? Because you would assume that ESL, being the Death Star of esports, everything evil, and now actually going above and beyond esports to work with literal evil to fund their business, all the while pretending that it's actually okay to work with some of the biggest human rights violators and be funded by some of the biggest human rights violators who make that money in you know, just unconscionable ways that even if you were just an environmentalist, you would find it disreputable, you know. But you would think they would be the worst. But what's super interesting is actually Whenever the non-ESL companies get the opportunity to run a major, they run the politics games. They are the fucking scumbags. They're the ones. Remember James Bardolph with the Old Boys Club? Oh, yeah. Oh, you'll all get called out tonight. Always liked James. Always did, man. Thought he was a consummate professional till he started becoming a fucking executive at Face It, and then that's transitioned into being an executive at fucking ESL. He's the guy. Remember, we fought for this. Me and Duncan made this public on By the Numbers. They weren't going to hire Sponge as an analyst because he was too ESL, and yet then he has an outburst on a broadcast talking about an old boys club. When it's your club, you literally act like the old boys, but when you have to come back into the open circuit, suddenly we're the villains. It makes no sense to me, and it makes no sense that the community, just because he's well liked by fans, cannot identify that correctly for what it is. And spoiler, you know what he's doing now? Inserting himself into broadcasts now, playing his executive card now, and it's fucked over people like Alan Ender, and it's fucked over people like Dinko. You'll notice as an interviewer now, don't worry, got material about that. He is the Old Boys Club. He's a literal executive at ESL who is saying, I want to do the games, I have the right to do the games because I'm an executive at ESL. So that's point number one. Blast did the same. You're going to look at the analysts and go, where's Janko? Nobody knows. They had no interest. You know why? Because I'm being told he's too ESL. Right? There was also talk of them, they were potentially going to want to have Machine and Sponge commentate apart, or maybe not even do later games. Like, they were exploring all the options to kind of like diminish their luster. And I'm sure Sponge, king of the bag, he'll fucking come out and probably deny this now, which is hilarious, because he used to be the iconoclast, but now all he cares about is, wait, I'm the king of HLTV and the king of ESL, and I've got good graces with Valve. I guess I'll just hold on to the mega bag for all time. Let's not rock the boat all of a sudden, says Sponge. Suddenly, one of the loudest critics of everything wrong with the scene, alongside me, a former player, so it resonates more. Remember how the community used to hate him? Now he's the king of the bag. So we just fucking don't. We just don't talk about it anymore, I guess. That's who Chad's become. That's what this industry does to people. When you start getting the money and the ego and the fucking yes men. It's like entertainment, but shit. But here's what I will say. I don't give a fuck that guy's dead to me, right? The bottom line is, like, it's wrong to even think about breaking up the de facto number one casting partnership because you're worried about it being too ESL-like. And then on top of that, the reason, and we'll just get to it ahead of time, the reason is that Harry and Hugo are not going to do late game stadium games where they do some of their best work, where they are masterful with the crowd, where they've probably had the best cast out of anyone at the last two majors. The reason they're not doing it, again, is because they're ESL people, and Blast don't want to push ESL people in a world that makes them look good. That's nonsense. It's the major, Blast. Sort your fucking shit out. Because I don't give a fuck if you're here in 5 months or 5 years and you lose the great battle to ESL. I don't give a fuck anymore. This scene's garbage. It's all compromised. At least give me a good tournament. At least use the good people. What, you think you're going to win? You think you're going to win by not using ESL people in prominent roles at a major? You think that's your path to victory? Unfortunately, your path to victory now is find a sugar daddy like they did, irrespective of where the money comes from. And so it's outrageous what you've done. And Harry and Hugo should get one stadium game at the bare fucking minimum, and that's it. And anyone who doesn't feel that way hasn't listened to commentators in the last 2 fucking years. And spoiler, you want to know what also is crazy? All of the commentators would agree with me, and they probably will privately. They just can't say anything publicly because of the petulant, petty nature of this shit business. So there you go, right? It's all on the table now, nothing but the truth. Have a spoonful of sugar if you don't like the medicine. Let's just get back to this. The analysts, Maniac, of course. Best in the game. Pimp, of course. Blast's guy. He knows my personal feelings, I've got to say. I love Jacob. We privately talked about it. I've criticised him, in his delivery and his energy on broadcast before. He asked me for feedback and said, why do you feel that way? And I recorded something to him and said, this is why I feel this way. And I sent it to him. And I think he's listened because last couple of times I saw him, he's doing some of the things that I recommended and suggested. So you know what? Like that's the mark of someone that loves the business and is willing to try things out to get better. I'm not saying I'm the expert. I'm not saying the authority. I even told him, I said, my way might not be the right way. I just want it to be like Sky Sports with Roy Keane and fucking Jamie Carragher and Micah Richards. I want it to be more like that. Not everyone stand there and wait for their turn to talk. I want you to get in there, you know? And so he started doing that, and him and Maniac have had better interactions, you know? So anyway, Maui Snake, I think that goes without saying. Plus, it's good for the desk to have some NA representation, talk on those storylines. I think he's a good guy to pick up. I said he's probably the most natural Thorin-esque character because he's not afraid of big takes and big opinions. Him and Yanko both do that. Maniac and Yanko are probably the best analyst pairing. But, Maniac and Maui, I fuck with that. But where is Yanko? Well, he's not there, and he's also not there in the later stage. He doesn't appear. And I have no idea why one of the best analysts in the world hasn't been approached. He's not turned this down. I mean, no one would turn down a major. He's just not there. He doesn't even come later in the game. They don't just add him. And so we get Professor. Now, Professor is the smarter of the two fucking mannequins on HLTV Confirmed, a podcast that Chad completely carries. But I don't mind Professor. I got no issue with Professor. Obviously, Striker's a fucking moron, a provable, measurable, medical level moron. But Professor's fine. He is the smarter of the two. I don't even begrudge him his nickname. But as an analyst, straight into a major, are you fucking dizzy? I'ma just say this. One thing that has insidiously crept in, it's probably part of Chad's machinations as well, has been HLTV entwining its business interests in with the people that run tournaments, particularly ESL and Blast, who have all of the CSGO calendar between them, essentially. And it's oh, wait, so I hire the guy that does HLTV Confirmed, then you run a live HLTV Confirmed at my event where you sell tickets for that event, and we get to package it as an additional extra if you come to the event. Oh, that's very interesting. I'm sure it's all a coincidence that Professor just gets to do a major desk, and there'll probably be a live HLTV Confirmed there. Now, I'll also just say this. I think Professor is the food equivalent of eating a Jacob's cracker with no cheese on it. He's very fucking dry. I think he's got to work on, being a bigger personality. The desk is not just about steak. There's got to be some fucking sizzle too. The old razzle dazzle. If you ain't got it, if you don't wrap up your points with a bit of showmanship, there's no point. In fact, you can be someone who makes no points, has less substance, but, as long as you dress it up and jazz it up, and it's entertaining, people can love that shit too. Look at Paul Merson, fucking toothless drug addict. Anyway, Professor doing a major is an insult. It's not just about who you hire, it's about who you don't. And that, to me, is ridiculous. And so we just I'm going to jump ahead of the casters, and we get to this, Mahone. Now, what Mahone is doing is in-depth analysis. He should be up here in the analysis desk. Might even, if you put Mahone there, maybe people go, oh, yeah, Professor being there. It's not that bad now. Because Professor sticks out like a sore thumb. You put Mahone in there, I've got 4 good analysts. Now, understand, I've criticised Mahone a load when I'm doing these things, and it's not because of him. It's not because of his work. I got no desire to get to know the guy and to be making new friends, especially in the talent pool. I don't really give a fuck. He got pushed by, Blast, basically, because they needed someone. What I hate is the way the scene elevates this guy to being oh, he's like the fucking fountain of all knowledge, when anybody, and I mean anybody, that even has played the game or watches the game regularly could stand in front of a screen and say, and by throwing this smoke here and it goes here, and then you see, because they did that, they push around here, but here's the interesting part, they push around here at the same time, and this creates a crowd blow, and anybody could do that. I'm not even kidding. Casters could do it. Anders did it last time. Nobody complained about that. They said it was weird. They didn't say he didn't know what he was talking about. Yet the biggest complaint I read on Reddit on a fucking daily basis is, oh, no game knowledge. They got no game knowledge. Story has no game knowledge. He's like a golden over, isn't he? Literally been higher than probably fucking 80% of Reddit in the rankings. I mean, not that means anything. I started out as global. I just don't even play the game. Who gives a fuck? That was the benefit of being there at the start. So, and having pros boost me, because that's obviously what I did. But anyway, none of it means anything. But at the end of the day, the assumption is you, a Reddit pleb who hasn't worked as a caster, hasn't worked as an analyst, never been a professional player, you know these people know nothing because you're smarter than them. But they've done all those things and still know nothing. Shut the fuck up, you delusional pricks. You're the fucking moron. You're the one with Dunning-Kruger. You don't know what you're talking about. You just know, I like their voice. They convinced me. And then you clap like that. And that's you. That's you. When you say, no game knowledge. All of these people have been higher than you. All of these people have more game knowledge than you. They got thousands of hours of watching it, studying demos, learning storylines. You, a Redditor for 2 years, do not fucking know as much as them. Just move on with your lives. Accept that fact. You'll feel better for it. So anyway, the other thing I want to say, Alan Ender, I don't know why he's not there. He could have been someone that could have come in. Obviously, all of these shenanigans, the Moses and Dinko partnership is kind of obviously driven apart another partnership. Alan Ender's good. I like Alan Ender. There's no Hawker either in the mix. Alan Ender's been grinding as an analyst, for ages. Alan Ender could probably, I've heard him, he's done some casting, he's done some colour. He's a good guy, and he's just not there. He's not there. I don't get why he's not there. As someone you would hit up and to give another chance to. Certainly over Professor. But anyway, casters. Scrawny and Launders. I think they're elite level. You know that. No problem with that. Anders and Moses. Now, this is weird. They were a partnership. Obviously, they'll work together. They'll probably cast together at this event, won't they? But Anders just announced he's in with Henry because Dinko is in with Moses. And so you are making them have a partnership that they already had and decided to walk away from. And they're pros and they're legends, but that's just crazy. So you could have had Henry at the major. You could have had him come in and do the fucking early stage, right? No, can't do that. That's just gotta be a thing. I don't even know the thought process in why you can't go bigger and have more casters, but whatever. Machine, Sponge, de facto number one casters right now. They were trying to fuck around behind the scenes and break them apart, but they're there, and they're going to get to do the stadiums, and that's great. No chance of them doing the final, obviously, but whatever. And then Harry and Hugo, as I said, Harry and Hugo absolutely fucked over because, as you see, when we get down to this part, they're just gone. They're just gone. You just don't get to do the later stages, I guess. That's just ridiculous. So, we get to the interviewers. This is criminal, what they've done. So Dinko is a lovely guy. He's a great caster with a bright future. Finally coming into his element. Finally doing tier 1. Moses has said, let's partner up. He's working with a pro. He's working with a legend in the game. He's going to absolutely fucking do it. Now, Dinko is made an interviewer. And you'll remember from the last stream, or the stream but one, whichever one it was, they made Dinko do loser interviews at the RMR where the players were such pathetic, petulant children that they decided that they would just not answer any of his questions. And then the moron fans on Reddit, because Magix couldn't be professional for 2 minutes in his life, were going, Dinko has no empathy, terrible interviewer, fuck this, why is he asking, who is this interviewer? Because you don't even recognize anyone's voices, because you don't even listen to the games, because you're a pack of morons, right? And fucking Dinko, I guess he's just got to be an interviewer now. Now, he should have said no to this. This fucks his career trajectory so insanely. It fucks it up so bad for him that he should have turned this down. This is a Poison Chalice job, but everyone wants a major, and plus, say no now, won't get hired later. Remember, these are tournament operators that behave like children that have made a fucking treehouse. No one is professional. They are clowns. Every single tournament operator hires their guys, and sorry, this is the no homers club. These are professional people running tournaments, and that's how they behave. They're all morons. They're all losers. They're just like, we weren't popular in school because we were nerds, but now we've got the keys to the cool kids club, i.e. people's livelihoods, and we just behave like that. We behave like the jocks that stuffed us into lockers. Absolute losers. And they're all like that. I say it again. I know you. You're my friends, right? Yeah. You too. Yeah, even you. When are you going to grow the fuck up and just hire people that are capable of doing a job properly? I don't know. Wouldn't it improve, like CS, if we just did that? Nah, I can't do that. Sorry. Dinko's going to be made to be an interviewer, and he will be fed. Feed him to the lions. Feed him to the lions. He will be fucking destroyed by Reddit on a daily basis. He's not an interviewer. I'll tell you that right now. I'll tell him that right now. Interviewing is a unique skill that requires so much practice and work, and I know because I did it for years and put in that practice and put in that work. It is not hold the microphone. It is you have to know when to come up with, when to push, when not to, when to draw back, how to read people, how to ask questions that connect to the overarching narrative of the broadcast, how to hold all the information in there and somehow condense it into the 2 minutes or 3 minutes you might get. There's so much going on with it. And Dinko's going to get absolutely fucking obliterated by Reddit every day. And if you do that, shame on you, because he should not be put in this position. Then you just go one up. I don't even know who Mad's massive Pedersen is. Wasn't he fucking Hannibal? I don't know who he is. So I've never seen his work, so by extension, I can't even judge him, can I? I can't even judge him. So I just have to say nothing there. But Heku, and again, she's ESL, I guess. Why not Heku, right? Just a joke. And then, obviously, Banks. The undisputed king of the interview game, I guess. Banks will be on stage. Banks will be interviewing people. Banks will be leveraging, those personal relationships he talks about. Posting on Reddit when I played in 1.6 finals. Things that just objectively never happened at any point. And I know that because I was there. And he's saying that in interviews and no one's pulling his card. Yeah, I guess that's fine. So whatever. I gotta say, I didn't think his last time out was particularly strong, and I think actually there's a raft of good interviewers that I would double down on over him, so whatever, who gives a fuck. We can hear more about Navi Nation, I suppose. And then you get down here and it's the fucking final insult. Spoiler, the original announcement for their French arena host was they spelled this dude's name wrong. It's CND, they spelled it CMD. But then you just get to this, and this is just I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. This is like Blast after 3 or 4 nights of heavy drinking with not even any water at any point, and they've woke up on that 4th day hangover, and they've just said to the CSGO fan base, "Oh, come here a minute," and they've just done. Get down on your knees. Just that angle's perfect. And then they've pulled out their dick and just done their stinking yellow 4-day drinking piss into the face of anyone that ever cared about this fucking game. And it's a stream like a fucking racehorse, and it's never ending, and it's just bouncing off your fucking chin and cheeks. It is an insult so profound, I cannot, even with the most descriptive and evocative language, summarize it accurately. Who is Jake Lucky within a CSGO context? Many of you will say, no one. He has no ties to the scene. He is a clout goblin who sits on Twitter posting the top thread from r/esports with pictures, and then the top 3 threads from our live stream fails with clips to generate drama, to gain followers, to have the illusion of substance and standing. His gimmick is he says frick instead of fuck. That and talking about drinking seltzers, because he rebranded that from White Claws because it gave him sponsor opportunities. He thinks that's a substitute for a personality. So I don't get it. But what you might want to remember is he actually is one of our own children. Many of you will have forgotten. You see, Jake Lucky was born from CSGO. Born from everything rotten about this garbage scene. He started out as CSGO News. What's CSGO News? Much like his later career, because he's incapable of development, apparently. CSGO News used to just be, here is a story on a website. I will read you that story on that website, then say, But what do you guys think? Well, leave your comments in the description down below. Does that, right? Now me, I do that sometimes, don't I? But I'm a 20-year fucking esports veteran with my own ideas and my own fucking expertise, my own thoughts, and insider knowledge. And I also do produce straight fire investigative journalism, and I'm considered the greatest of all time in terms of esports journalism, and I've hosted on TV shows, and done esports broadcasting, and been a commentator, and been an analyst, and done loads of shit, and I'm now a fucking professor at a university on top of that. How does he do all these things? So I get to do it, because for me, that's a rest. It's not my entire fucking career, is it? Not my entire identity. I don't think it passes for fucking good work. Jake Lucky, it's the pinnacle, because he's never changed. He's never changed up his game in all this time. But anyway, he started out in CSGO news, and I just want to remind everybody that Jake Lucky routinely got stories wrong. He'd do videos where he would read stories that would later be proved false, wouldn't issue corrections. Sometimes I think he tried a couple of roster leaks, didn't have the connections for it, obviously. And then, of course, the classic. And by the way, this is all coincidental, right? He had an argument with Moore. You remember Moore? He's an AWPer, right? He's an AWPer. Chicken Coop. You've seen him.
Chicken Coop! Chicken fucking Coop! Toots, where do you play?
You've seen them all, right? We don't talk about CSGO Diamonds. I mean, shit, man. Fucking G2 are going to announce them as a sponsor at this rate. But anyway, we all know Moore. Moore called him like a clout goblin or a cunt or something on Twitter. And so what did Jake Lucky do? Well, just coincidentally, he stumbled across a dating profile on an obscure website that used Moore's picture. And he did a video and he said, proof, Moore is cheating on his wife. Because Moore's married with kids. And he made that video. He made that video without any ability to check or corroborate his story. He put that salacious claim out into the world and fucked with a man's family. And by the way, that man, right, he's done some shitty things. Of course he is, yeah. I mean, fucking another greedy motherfucker. Who else comes to CSGO? And yeah, I've known him years and we don't really talk anymore, you know. It's life, I guess. But I'll just add, like, again, what did the rules used to be? Like, what did we used to cancel people for, right? There was lines to this. Like, apparently, it's the most evil thing in the world to say that maybe a YouTuber is a fake nice guy and obviously say it in jest and not even serious. That's the worst thing ever, by the way. That will just be lied about from now until the end of time. Another thing on the Richard Lewis mythology that's objectively not true, right? But that's terrible. But it was okay for Jake Lucky to literally fuck with a man's family, and he's back, guys. He's back. He can do that to a CSGO player, someone who's undeniably contributed more to the history of the game, love him or hate him. Work D-League. Jake Lucky can do that. Spend a few years in the wilderness where he tweets objectively irresponsible things, along with that cunt Hunter Grooms, where nothing's off limits. Grief. Sadness. This is the guy, by the way. Let me show you this, actually. I'm going to show you Jake Lucky's editorial input, right? I'm going to show you who this man is and why it's a travesty that he would be anywhere near a major. So, there was a story involving Cloud9 White, where basically, and by the way, spoiler, I don't know if you saw, there was a lawsuit against Twitter recently. Basically, a guy had been catfished, sent nudes to a catfished account. And when I say guy, I'm talking about a teenage, older teenager dude. He got catfished, and then by a pedophile, and then the pedophile was tricking him. It said, like, now I've got your nudes, I'll leak them, I'll tell your family, I'll tell your mother, and basically made this person beholden to them and send videos and more stuff. And this kid got suicidal. So you have to understand that we've just come out of COVID, and I'm an adult and I understand these things. So obviously, when you couldn't meet up with people and you got dates, people have been sexting, people have been sending each other nudes. I would always advise against it. But if you're in a healthy, happy relationship, why not? A few cheesecake pictures, is what it is. But loads of people were doing that during the pandemic. And so bubbling up under the surface is a real risk of, like, a generation of young adults that are going to be caught out. And particularly, women are vulnerable to this. And it fucking terrifies me because, revenge porn can have unbelievable destructive impact on people's lives, the combination of societal shame, guilt, control. It's dangerous. It's really dangerous. It's a serious topic and not something to be fucking trivialized. So, when we had an example of it in esports, I want to show you the thumbnail. The thumbnail that Jake Lucky deemed appropriate for a video he made. With a cartoon ransom note. So tastefully done. Fired for blackmail. Not fit to report on the news. If you think that's the limit for someone like Jake Lucky, if you think Jake Lucky is just a good guy, just out there in the world trying to do stuff, if you think that's the limit and that's just a mistake, Richard, he doesn't have your experience. Richard, he's not as old as you. Richard, he's not as worldly as you. You just said that yourself. Surely you would understand covering allegations of sexual assault. The last thing that must be in a story about sexual assault is any titillation. There's nothing titillating about that. You know someone who's a victim of sexual assault. All of you. At some point in their lives. It's one of the most repellent and repulsive things you can do to another human being. It's evil, it's disgusting, and the idea that when you are adjacent and you're covering stories like that, you would treat that frivolously is sick. But Jake Lucky wasted no time when he was covering the Sinatra claims. Look at that thumbnail. I mean, I'm astounded. And yet, because this guy has, what's he up to now? Is it 1 million followers on Twitter or something? You know, because he's got a Twitter following, he can just work a major. He can work a major when these are his objective editorial standards and attitudes coming through in his content, where he will use any horrible thing that happens to people for clicks. And they were just in it again with the deepfake porn thing. That person has been deemed fit to work a major despite having no tangible connection to CSGO, with no actual real talent hosting events. You know, Blast know, by the way, that these games, these shit teams, these no-namer teams are not going to give big viewership. So they turned to an influencer. And I want to remind you all about what I said. I did say, didn't I? After Rio, there can never be another Gowles show. I wrote that article. It was everybody loved that. Everyone agreed with that. No one in Brazil agreed with that. Well, a few people even in Brazil agreed with that, which was the scary thing. I only got, 50% of the usual vampire penises sent to me. But everyone in the world agreed that actually the Gowles show overshadowed the whole of the event, and Gowles paraded around the stage, looking like Baron Silas Greenback from Danger Mouse, saying it's not for the gringos, it's not for anyone else, this is a major only for Brazil. It's a fucking world championship, you cunt. It's for everybody. Esports is for everybody by definition. That type of nationalist rhetoric, by the way, if uttered by anyone else, would be disqualifying. You just couldn't work events anymore. Can you imagine? Can you imagine if, like, an American person started walking around an American event? Yeah, this is just for Americans, guys. This event right here. They'd cut the fucking feed. Twitch would ban the feed. It would go. But obviously, it's Gowles and we need the viewership. So there are no standards anymore. We don't apply standards. We just want viewership. We just want money. That's it. It's all we want. It's all this is for now. It's not real. There's no community. There's no love for the game. It's about the bag. And so I said we should never do it again, right? We can never have a major beholden to an influencer. Now, I know he's just an overtime host. You know what he's doing? He's basically sat there and he's going to be doing the overtime show where probably they'll have players on and they'll, ooh, frick, want to drink a seltzer, ooh, what about that game today? And the Zoomers will yum it up and Jake Lucky fans will yum it up and, because they'll eat, they would eat his fucking warm diarrhea spoon-fed to them by hunter grooms. They've got no standards themselves and no conceptualization of what good content would be. So this is so ridiculous and it's done as a buffer to make up for the viewership that evidently they're going to lose. But there's no world where Jake Lucky should be working a major. There's no world where Jake Lucky should be working the last major Like, that's what we needed all of this time, right? And here's the mad thing. There are so many ways you can make a great overtime show. By the way, I know obviously people will say, oh, but Richard, aren't you entangled with them and whatever? So, yeah, you know me. I disclose everything. But disclosure again. But, the guys at Last Free Nation would kill it with that type of content. You could have reached out to them. They would have done it. They're going to be doing some watch parties. I'm sure they would have loved to come and just done those live and hung out with players and stuff. But that's fine. Why not, Get Right, Forest, bring them together again. The overtime show with two legends and have some banter. Would have been a good way to work Yanko into the show if it wasn't malicious and, malignant. And obviously, Stunner, all of these people could do all of this type of content. But they're not there, and Jake Lucky is. There's never been a more egregious example of a terrible hire for a major than this. And I have never been more regretful of the fact Valve doesn't hold dominion over it like they do with TI. In fact, this is how mad it makes me. I would take back all of the non-E-League majors I worked. I would just give them away, not do them, to have Valve essentially prevent this and what's going to happen as a result of it. I'd trade it all in to spare you, my children, this atrocity. And I mean it. I really mean it. It's going to be as bad as you think. And this guy doesn't deserve it. Doesn't deserve to fucking worm his way in insidious fashion and be a consideration. Because I'll tell you the next thing. This opens the door to the inevitable destination for esports you were not ready for. Where, yeah, esports is sports. And you have sports analysts and sports commentators because it's sports. No, my friends. Imagine a world where all broadcasts are folded in to a rolling influencer podcast. There's commentary on the games and you never even see who those dudes are. And then they cut to a desk of fucking Tim the Tap Man, Nick Merckx and Jake Lucky for every game. And they just talk about it. That is what this opens up the door to. We've already got Mr. Beast sniffing around League, haven't we? I mean, I'd rather it belong to the influencers than it belong to Saudi Arabia, so I'll take that. That's second prize. I did a video on that very thing, on that very topic, that we are seeing more influencer-owned orgs. I don't mind them as org owners. They're probably better than some of the fucking two-faced criminals that run orgs now. So that's fine. But esports broadcasts used to have standards, used to be sacred. The majors used to matter. What an outrage. What a travesty. I'll also just leave you with this, because this is a trend. There's a bit of levity at the end. Right? We'll do something funny and then I'll fuck off. Right? Remember how I told you every single talent announcement day there has to be an HLTV and or Reddit thread discussing me and Thorin. Now let's make it absolutely clear for the millionth time: we've been retired from events for years. I won't take their money. Right? I'm very on record about that. I say nothing but derogatory things about them because they're shit. Duncan is the same. He said publicly, I will never work for ESL again. I won't work with Blast because of what they did with Device. And that's who we're left with. Every time there's a talent announcement and we're not on it, even though we could never conceivably be on it, don't want to be on it, I've explicitly, publicly said, don't hire me ever again. Don't even waste sending the email. Here are the people you hire. Go do that. I'm fine. I got money. I've got projects to work on. I'm getting old. It's all okay. It's good. It's fine. Every time there's a thread. There's always a thread. And so, while the mods skillfully removed a thread that said, these talent hires are an insult to CSGO, that one wasn't allowed to stay. This thread, somehow, mysteriously, gets to stay up, doesn't it? Your thoughts about Thorin and Richard Lewis. We're doing this again, guys. We're doing this. Do you remember the last thread? Does anyone hate Richard Lewis and Thorin? You remember that? You just remember that thread was just allowed to stay up? You remember? Out of nowhere? We're doing it again, guys. There's another major. I'm not working the majors. I'm never working the majors. I don't work events. I don't do it. But we got to do the thread. What do you think? Why do you hate? Why is he a cunt? We have to do it. Brilliant. And it is the fucking sea of lies again. Fair enough. Top comment. I'm on board with that. Can't argue with this. There's an old schooler. Richard, I remember from StarCraft 2 days. He's a smart guy and has a solid moral compass for the most part. You can say that about me. There is some part that gets a little tired of fighting external forces narrative. Feels a bit forced in the way he talks about, the way he talks kind of railroads conversations. But by most measures, a decent enough guy, and I respect the work he has done calling out gambling issues and organisations' hypocrisy. Well, thank you very much. I'm glad that. RL is pretty respected and mostly taken seriously, I'd say. Oh, it's good. We love Richard Lewis in this thread. Downvoted into oblivion, of course, but let's say. Both are very appropriately in esports journalism because they've both been in it since before it was a massive thing, which was an era of unprofessionalism that the scene has hopefully passed, while these guys are as grandfathered in. So in other words, I only, despite being a qualified journalist that worked for publications prior to esports, I got grandfathered into esports journalism because back then the scene was shit. And somehow it became professional. I wonder why that might have been. I wonder who was elevating the standards of esports work during those years. Who could it have been? Who knows? Who really knows? Both are dicks. And both know what they're talking about most of the time. Retired attention baiters. Look how they attacked Free Kicks Philip and called him someone who just reads patch notes. Now, spoiler, I said that after like video 3, or was it video 2? I can't even remember. After he'd had a meltdown for us just not liking a video we did, or just saying it was a weird video. I don't know. But he does read patch notes for a living. I mean, sorry, among other things. He farts on people as well. But anyway, yeah, just incredible. So yeah, we even got this. Again. It didn't pop off. It got downvoted, but it's there. It'll be on HLTV too. I haven't even looked yet. That'll be there. Richard Lewis, what a cunt. It'll be there, because it's a major, nothing to do with me, but whatever. Enjoy Jake Lucky, guys. Enjoy Jake Lucky. That's all I'll say. I'll be fucking working on the EG article, playing fucking some video games. Age of Wonders 4's out. I'm fuck you. Fuck all of you. Not you, but them. Fuck them. So I'm fine. And there it is. You can listen to this in a condensed and less animated and angry format if you want on the Esports Gospel. I made this episode free.